Welcome to In Confidence, the problem page with me, Rosie Dowling, where I share letters you've sent me about your confidence problems and I answer with practical tips based on my experience coaching senior leaders. Many successful leaders I coach come to me experiencing some form of identity crisis. Through coaching, they're able to reconnect with a healthy sense of who they are. This letter comes from a 42-year-old woman in the entertainment business. Dear Rosie, I have a problem, which is that I'm not really sure who I am. I've started to notice that I adapt myself to whoever I'm with. I pick up the tone of the room, become interested in whatever the other person is interested in, and generally make people feel comfortable. People seem to like me, but I'm not sure they really know me. The strange thing is that I'm no longer sure I know myself either. When someone asks me what I think about something or what I care about, I often go blank. Life has been busy and complicated for a long time, and I think I just got used to getting on with things rather than stopping to work out what I actually think or feel. Now that I'm noticing it, I realise I've spent years adapting to situations and people without ever really asking who I am underneath it all. So my question is, how do you build confidence in yourself if you're not even sure who that self is? I have some good news for you, which is that you are far more self-aware than you think. And even the fact that you're noticing this and thinking about it, talking about it, however uncomfortable it makes you feel, it shows how well you actually do know yourself. So there's some beautiful research by Tasha Eurich that found that 95% of people believe they're self-aware, but only 10 to 15% of people actually are. So what does that mean for you? To get to know yourself better, I recommend you start small, because asking who am I, what's my identity, feels like such a huge, broad, daunting question. I wonder if you could start by noticing who or what you identify with. So this could be as simple as keeping some very brief notes, just noticing how you respond to books, TV programs, pieces of art. And it keeps it really low stakes if you're just having a conversation with yourself. Instead of replaying conversations and thinking about how well or badly you performed, perhaps you could recall one or two things that were said and ask yourself why you think you remembered them. In particular, was there something interesting? Building out your curiosity from there so that you begin to think of yourself as a thinker again. Next, going blank when someone asks what you think is such a common response. I see it often when I'm coaching people with speaking anxiety. It is your brain disconnecting from your body, almost as if someone has unplugged something. The good news is that people notice it far less than you do, and most people are as eager to get on with the conversation as you are. The most important thing is to get yourself back down to the ground. So feel the soles of your feet on the ground, notice some of the textures in the room, take a sip of your drink, notice how that tastes, just get back to your senses. And then you have a couple of options. So the first thing that you could do, depending on how comfortable you feel in this situation, is to tell them what's happening. So you could just say, do you know, my mind's just gone completely blank, and that's been happening to me quite a lot recently. Is that something you've ever experienced? And that opens the door to a much deeper conversation. You can judge how comfortable you feel to do that. The other option that I love is to openly think. So some of my favorite thinkers and some of my best clients take a really long time to think of their answers. And there's something so stimulating about watching someone else think, because you begin to imagine what they're going to say. So you can narrate the thinking process. You can say, what do I think about that? And that buys you some time. And then by that point, you may have the answer. And if you haven't, you've got another option, which is to simply summarize what you've just said, what's been said in the conversation so far. As soon as you do that, I guarantee the other person's going to jump back in with what they're thinking, and you get straight back on track. You say that life has been really difficult and complicated for a while, and I'm very sorry to hear that. And I wonder if that's part of why it's so hard for you to settle into a sense of who you are, because you're so used to the landscape shifting. And it's actually a very clever way of you keeping yourself safe, protecting yourself, because identity shifts are a huge upheaval. Moving house, changing job, ending a relationship or changing a relationship, they all require significant headspace and energy. And perhaps you don't have the energy for that right now. So perhaps that's your way of just not settling. Is there anyone who knows you especially well, who you feel completely yourself with? And can you arrange to spend more time with them? Old friends are such great anchors, and as much as we change and shift identity through our lives, there are fundamental parts of us that stay the same. Up to 50 to 60% of our identity stays the same throughout our whole life. And tapping into that can be extremely comforting. So often, clients of mine, one of the strategies we'll use is to get in touch with old friends and start up regular phone conversations with them. It can really boost your self-assurance and your confidence as well. The final thing I want to address is your adaptability, because the way that you describe it in your letter is as if it's a bad thing. And I wonder whether this is actually a really positive part of who you are. But I also want you to consider the cost of your adaptability. Studies on agreeableness and social adaptability show that people who are adaptable are much more likely to be trusted, they're more likely to be liked, they're more collaborative. But on the other side of it, the cost is often that they feel invisible and unknown. I have a very cool strengths exercise in my course, The Confidence Boost, 6 Ways to Get Unstuck, which you can find on my website and it's linked in the show notes. Taking time to understand your strengths and noticing how when you pair them with other strengths, they can become a superpower is a huge confidence boost. I love this quote that's been attributed to Dolly Parton: find out who you are and do it on purpose. I hope that's been helpful, and if you have some advice for our writer, please add it to the comments wherever you're listening. And if you have a confidence question for me, you can email askrosie.inconfidence@gmail.com or send me a voice note at 07377 231 025. Thanks for listening to In Confidence with Rosie Dalling. We'll see you next week.